Welcome in. I'm Bobby Broyles alongside with Tim McDonald here with the latest episode of This Week in CA Football presented by Geico. We're officially over the halfway mark of the 2015 regular season. And this past Saturday, like our league always does, Tim, it produced even more storylines.
Got to start with Coach Fleming and Rhode. Pick up the first win of the season. Do it in a dominating fashion. Rhode beats Delaware 20-0. Tez Wilson, how about that? At pick six, gets it done. Rhode picked off Delaware 3 times, held Delaware to 19 rush yards in the second half. Wilson's named the CAA Rookie of the Week. Rhode, first shutout since 2006, a span of 99 games. We were in Towson for the JMU Dukes, and we just saw the Dukes keep rolling. Vadley, what did he do, Bob? He got shut down on the run game, but you know what? He said, all right, take that away, that's fine. Threw 5 touchdown passes. JMU rolled in the second half. William & Mary, a nice win on the road at Nova. You also saw Maine look angry last week, got a dominating win at Albany. Richmond, again, of course, stayed home, and we knew they were going to play well at home. Got the job done versus Elon. Wasn't the prettiest game, but got it done on the ground. Then, unfortunately, we heard on the news on Monday, Stacey Bedell, the running back for Stony Brook, unfortunately, he's going to be lost for the year. The junior right now still leads the CAA with 117 yards rushing. Only played 3 games this season. A huge loss for them. He will be back in 2016, but again, the trend of injuries, Bob, it's unfortunate, but it's part of the game in the CAA football.
Especially to some of the star players. You know, we've talked about John Robertson's and now Stacey Bedell.
You know, if I'm going to steal your line here and add one more stat, before last week, CAA football teams on the road in conference games were 0-11. That changed last week. Obviously, William & Mary, JMU, and Maine changed that trend and picked up the first CAA football road wins for road teams in conference play. Absolutely huge.
Well, with that, let's dive into Week 7, and we kick off with a huge top 25 battle when New Hampshire visits William & Mary at noon on Comcast Sportsnet and CA.TV. Tim, is it too early to say this one has big playoff implications?
It's never too early, Bob. Good. You know me. I'm always thinking about playoff implications.
Always. Me too.
This is an absolutely huge game. You know, the Tribe, like we said, performed very well at Villanova. I think they punched Nova in the mouth a little bit, which was surprising because we wanted to see how they were going to respond from that loss to Delaware. Kendall Anderson, the job that he's done over the last 3 weeks has been phenomenal. 6.6 yards per carries, 106 yards per game. And more impressively than Anderson and that William Mary offense has been the progression of Steve Cluey, the quarterback. He's just looked more poised. He's looked more confident. Percentage-wise, he's been great. 59.1% passing, 8 touchdowns, 1 interception. You saw William Mary last week, 10-3 down, but what do they do in that second quarter? Come out and just stick to the ground game. 28 straight points and just roll to a big win. Now they come home. Remember, this is only the second home game of the season so far for William & Mary against a UNH team, and more storylines. You see Sean Goldrich, the starter, the quarterback for New Hampshire. We knew he injured his ankle. The rumor is he's going to be back and he's going to be playing. Coach McDonald said this week that he is going to be playing. It's going to be a really interesting matchup. New Hampshire's had an extra week to prepare for this one.
Yes, they have.
Dalton Croston is the leading receiver and the leading rusher for New Hampshire, so really he's the only option right now for UNH on offense. Look to Jordan Powell, Amici Walker, guys, for get it done. They need some playmakers to step up that New Hampshire offense if they want to stay in this one. Let's, of course, remember last year's game, 32-3 at New Hampshire. I'm sure a lot of William & Mary players remember that one. I think the question is, Kendall Anderson, the rate he's going right now, can New Hampshire's defense stop him? Not to mention Devontae Dedman. You're going to have to pick and choose if you're New Hampshire. Who do you want to stop? I think if Sean Goldrich plays, expect William & Mary to try and pressure him early, especially if they know he has a sore ankle.
Yep, indeed. Also at noon, Rhode Island comes off that big win. It's first of the year playing host to Richmond. The Spiders seem to be clicking on all cylinders right now, Tim.
The good news for Rhode, as a player, you know, you feel so good for the team because they got that win in the fashion that they did, too. Like I said, 3 picks versus Delaware, and just the defense came to play, showed up. A lot of guys came in, and just it was an all-around effort. The bad news is you have to play a Richmond team right now that proved it can get the job done on the ground. Last week, Seth Fisher and Jacoby Green rushed for 220 yards combined. Green had 2 touchdowns. We saw that, and Lauletta, too. It's not like he had a bad game. 15 of 19. He also had a 20-plus yard rushing touchdown. So the question is, Richmond comes into this one proving that they can get it done on the ground. They can get it done on the air. If you're Rhode right now, you need to keep feeding the ball to Harold Cooper. Second straight 100-yard rushing game last week. He also had a touchdown. Again, momentum-wise for Rhode, that was absolutely huge. You get to stay at home for homecoming. Richmond, it might remind you a little bit of this game last year when Richmond had to head to Maine in the middle of the season. I don't know. It's interesting, but I ultimately think Richmond has too much to lose against Rhode, and I think the ability to use the run and the pass is going to haunt Rhode coming into this one.
Yep, and Richmond also has some nightmares in the past of visiting Rhode Island as well. Strauss really struggled.
It's true.
What
was that, 2 years ago? That's shocker,
so,
yeah.
There you go.
That's right. Good call, Bob.
At 3 on CA.TV, James Madison takes its unbeaten record on the road against Elon.
Well, again, we look at what JMU did last week, and you come and say, okay, I'm impressed with the offense. First time for me personally seeing JMU play this year. Just impressed with the weapons. 8 different guys caught passes from Vadley last week. You look at a guy in Abdullah who rushed for 130-plus yards, didn't score, but still,
Quietly.
I was more impressed with JMU's defense, too. To hold Towson under 300 yards, really forced Towson to throw the ball, which is, I think, what they wanted to do. Shut down Towson's run game for the most part. The Dukes this year they've just been able to just sustain drives. We look at only had 8 minutes of possession in the first half versus Towson, but still scored 24 points. Elon right now is desperately looking for a win. We know it's been really tough, back-to-back losses. It does look like Daniel Thompson is going to be the guy. Threw for over 200 yards, threw for 2 touchdowns last week, but also threw for 2 picks. And Elon's run game right now is giving it some concern just because teams are keying in on that. Elon is really struggling to run the ball right now, only 75 yards averaged on the ground. Interesting matchup scoring-wise. JMU, number 1 scoring offense in the CAA. Elon, 12th in scoring. JMU, number 1 rush. Elon, 12th in rushing. So interesting stat lines there. On the road, again, a little bit of a help for Elon if you're playing at home, but James Madison right now, I think, just too much to lose for them, too. They just have so much going for them right now. I don't think they're going to have a letdown.
Indeed, just like what head coach Everett Withers been saying, these are business trips for the Dukes right now hitting the road. On the American Sports Network and CA.TV, Villanova and UAlbany square off at 3:30. Tim, you want to talk about 2 teams that desperately need a win right now?
Yes, my God. 2 teams that really, especially both head coaches, could really use a win. You look at Andy Talley right now, and he's searching for answers. Bednarczyk, the quarterback for Villanova, in the first quarter played pretty well. Managed the game okay. Then a couple things got away, a couple throws got away. We saw a pick 6 for William & Mary. Bednarczyk, again, he's still growing. He's still moving. You look at 13 of 31 passing last week. That needs to improve. We look at Villanova's run game, which is just the last 3 weeks especially, has just gone down the drain. Now UAlbany, we don't really know where this team's identity is right now, especially offensively. We see them struggle with the run too. So this is a really good game in terms of both teams needing win because they are desperate to get some wins. UAlbany obviously playing at home. DJ Crook, I think, needs to find Z Robertson more. He leads the CAA with 34 receptions this year. Albany only averages 101.1 rush yards per game in CAA football throughout the season. So I expect Villanova to key on that, and I think that's a little bit of an advantage to Villanova's edge, even going on the road.
Indeed, it has been surprising. UAlbany's rushing attack was so strong early in the
season.
Early
on,
and
and
has
the last
not
couple
existed
weeks,
in the last couple weeks. Also at 3:30 on Fox College Sports, Maine hosts Yale out of the Ivy League in a non-conference matchup.
An interesting non-conference matchup because we've talked about the strength of Maine's schedule, and this is the final non-conference game. They've already played 2 FBS opponents. Yale coming out of the Ivy. Yale owns a 3-1 record, so Yale isn't some Ivy League team that's just that's just good in the books and not on the field. Yale's a very good football team. Unfortunately, last week Yale had to go to Dartmouth and got beat by a very good Dartmouth team, 35-3. Gave up 592 yards of offense. I don't know. I look at this game and I see Maine coming off that win at Albany. I think the defense just looked like they were angry and looked like they were ready to prove that they were ready to play. They showed that last week. I think Maine's defense right now, you look at a guy in Pat Ricard, 4.5 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks last week. Maine right now playing at home, they can even their record to 3-3. Remember, they're still 2-1 in league play right now. So regardless of this game, it doesn't matter towards their league standings. You look at Maine's upcoming schedule: Stony Brook, Nova, Towson, Elon, and then of course New Hampshire. Certainly manageable. Again, you have to take care of non-conference play. If you're Maine playing at home in front of your crowd right now, you have to take care of business versus Yale.
Yeah, you had to feel last week, Maine going in that UAlbany game, they felt that that defense especially was embarrassed at Richmond.
And Collins did play better last week, 21 of 28 passing, more efficient.
And wrapping up Week 7 at 6 p.m., the Towson Tigers travel to Long Island to take on Stony Brook. You can listen to this one on the Heritage Sports Radio Network on XM Channel 204 and Sirius 113.
This is a very interesting game just because if you're a CAA football fan, you have all these games going on during the day, and you can see where the league standings and what's happening. And here's this contest. You look at Stacey Bedell. We've talked about him. That's a huge loss for Stony Brook. You look at 2 guys in Isaiah White, a freshman, and Leotine. Both guys are rushers right now who are under 40 yards per game for Stony Brook. Those guys are going to be expected to carry the load. This is a game right now where we saw Connor Frazier last week, rushed for 54 yards, threw for 3 touchdowns. But again, if teams are going to force Towson, which we think they're going to do the rest of the year, beat them with your arm, we need to see Frazier keep progressing. Talked about Rob Ambrose. He says each week, it's true, Frazier keeps developing and keeps progressing. That's going to be the key this week. But the question is, Stony Brook's defense has had an extra week to prepare for this one. They've had the off week. And Stony Brook, because of that odd game versus Toledo at the beginning of the season, think about this contest too, is huge. 2-2 right now, 1-2 in CAA football play, 2 straight CAA football losses. if Stony Brook can somehow figure out that run game, if they can get both quarterbacks, Bednarski and Carbone, into the system and moving flow against Towson, that's going to be absolutely huge. I think this is a game of quarterbacks. That sounds obvious and that sounds stupid, but it's Frazier versus Bednarski and Carbone. If Carbone can get his legs going and move the ground, Stony Brook's got a chance. Stony Brook's schedule down the stretch is way more favorable than Towson's. That's why I think Stony Brook has a lot more on the line this week.
Should be a great one in Long Island this weekend. CAFootball.com has links to watch the live streams and live stats from each Week 7 game. Also, CA.TV will have a live simulcast of CSN's broadcast of New Hampshire at William & Mary, followed by ASN's coverage of Villanova at UAlbany.
Our Snapchat account was off the hook, as the kids say, last weekend. So continue to follow us by searching CAA Football. And, of course, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram as well under the username CAA Football. Hasn't been too shabby either.
No.
Okay. We have a hashtag CAAFB. You can join that conversation whenever you want. And Facebook, we had that too. Not a big deal. You can find us at facebook.com/CAA Football.
Our on-campus crew was at Towson this past Saturday. You can check out the sights, sounds, and highlights from the Tigers contest versus JMU now on our Everyday is Saturday blog, cafootball.wordpress.com. And be sure to check out an emotional Going Deep feature tomorrow on cafootball.com and the blog.
Mike, Eric, and you and the whole crew, it was a really good story. I'm really excited for CAA fans to watch this one. And then again, we're going to get another powerful story from UAlbany. Don't forget, during these trips, the best part for us is being able to share sneak peeks through social media, through Snapchat, through Instagram, and through Twitter. It's been great to get on campus and get out of the office, run around a little bit,
Yeah, exactly.
It's just been great, and it continues this week again at UAlbany.
As long as we keep you out of trouble, right?
We'll try.
Another programming note, CA Football's Yak podcast returns tomorrow, diving deeper into the Week 7 matchups. Catch it, as always, on the blog, cafootball.wordpress.com. That's it from us today. We'll see you again right here next week for another episode of This Week in CA Football. Enjoy Week 7.